Friends, we are, let me turn my audio down. We are live. I believe so. We should be. I hope so. Okay, let me just see. I'm checking, I'm waiting. I have a second window up, seeing. We should be live. I hope we're live. I think we're live. Yeah. Okay, we're good. All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Alexis. As usual, I am going live on Thursdays on behalf of Pop Shop America. I'm going to be showing you guys this month's Craft and Style subscription box. So I'm going to give it a couple. Okay, we have some people watching now. Cool. I'm going to give it a couple of seconds, little minute or so before I start with what I'm going to be getting into today. It looks like we have some more people joining. Okay, cool. Bear with me, guys. Let me get my phone situated. Okay, awesome. Hi, everyone. All right, my name is Alexis, and again, every Thursday I go live on behalf of Pop Shop America, and I showcase the craft and style boxes that Brittany has for each month. So this month, I am showing you guys how to build your own terrariums. So this is a DIY live terrarium kit, and I'm gonna unbox it here with you guys. I haven't opened it yet. There's live plants in here, so they should be good. This is how they actually come shipped. So when you order the box for this particular class, they do give you live succulents. So we're going to be working with succulents today. So for those of you who aren't familiar with that, I know a lot of us are. A lot of us probably have them, or a lot of us are probably interested in getting into them. So that's what we're going to be getting into today. And I just wanted to go ahead and let a couple more people come in before I get started with that. But looks like we're all set, and looks like I am live now. So let's go ahead and begin. So pretty much on the website, Brittany has these really cool kits that you can purchase, and there's different ones every month. And this one I love because I'm a huge plant mom. I have like my own little mini succulent garden outside. I raise them, I grow them, I sell them. They're just the coolest little plants ever. So we're going to open this up and see what's inside of it. So when you get your box, it's going to come with a pamphlet and your terrarium kit right there. So it's going to have a list of instructions and step-by-step photos of how to take care of the plants that you get, how to build the kit that we have here today from scratch. So it's going to be really informational, and it's going to have a lot of good, details in there that you definitely want to take a look at and keep a hold of. So you're going to have your pamphlet there. You are also going to have different accessories, and for this particular kit, it's for the fairy garden. So when you order this online, you can customize it. You can get a fairy garden, you can get like a beach theme, you can get a gemstone theme. So the one that I have here is fairy garden. I do have the additional ones here too. I'm going to show you that to you guys so you can take a look at that. So that's the fairy garden. It comes with the wings, the flower, and some really cute like little mushroom accents. I also have the seashells here, so you can see those, and then the gemstones as well too. So these are really cute. I love that. So you have those accessories that you can customize your kit with whenever you do order online. And you're also going to have moss inside of it. So there's winter moss, and then they're just winter moss. And there's a light green and then a dark green. So you have those to decorate with. You're going to have a bunch of this paper to keep your plants protected. So be careful as you open that. Don't just throw it all over the place like I did right now. Okay, here we go. You have your garden soil, and this is succulent soil. So if you're new to growing plants or anything of that sort, you should know that succulents require their own specific type of soil. And that's just going to be a fast draining soil. It's something that doesn't hold on to moisture, because when you are raising succulents, yes, they're durable, yes, they're hardy, but they are sensitive to the amount of water that they take in. So this particular soil right here is going to have grains of sand mixed into it, which helps the water circulate through it a lot faster, as opposed to a kind of soil that you would use for, growing fruits or flowers. So that's very important that you're using the right kind of soil when you are working with succulents. So we have that here. I have my succulents, they're wrapped up. I kind of want to take that out last and show you guys. Okay, we have the aquarium rocks. So this is what we're going to be using for the base as we build our terrarium. And the ones that come in the kit are these really pretty neutral brown colors. You can, however, use, if you want to use something like actual aquarium rocks, like the bright fluorescent ones, you can do that too if that's the style that you want to have for your kit or for your terrarium. But in the kit that we have this neutral color. And then we have the actual terrarium bowl itself. It's going to come wrapped up in this really cute packaging to protect it from damage. And it's really small, but it just looks like a little tiny fish bowl. So that's so cute. I don't know. I just love it. So we have that. And then last but not least, the succulents that I have today, I'm going to have this little guy right here. And as you can see, this is a clipping. It does not have any roots attached to it yet. So I'll get into that a little bit later as we get into the stream. But I have this one, and then I have as well, I have this guy here. And this one that's wrapped up in some twine, we're just going to take that and slide it off. So this one, definitely thirsty. It needs some water. There's a couple in here actually. I'll get into them with you. So I have some here that have roots attached to them already. As you can see here, you see those roots growing out from it. And then this one here too. This one doesn't quite have its roots yet, but as you can see, they were packaged up. They're a little, you know, waking up from transit. So I'll get into how to kind of revive those and get them back, you know, to their vibrancy as we go into the stream. I also forgot to mention that we do have additional colored aquarium rocks, and we have sand too. So there we go. That's going to come in handy as we build our terrariums up as well. So that's everything that's included in your box, and that's the gist of what you will need. You can add more ornamentations and decorations to your terrarium as you build it, but these are going to be the staple pieces that you need when working with it, and everything is included in the kit when you order it. So you don't have to worry about, you know, running out and grabbing something last minute that you need that's not included. Everything is already in there for you. So I want to go over this pamphlet a bit with you guys before we actually get into the process of building the whole terrarium. So what this says here, it's going to give you information about watering. So it's going to tell you how much water your plants need. It's going to give you information about how to know when to water your plants. It's also going to give you step-by-step pictorials of how to do this too. Some of us, you know, if we're crafty, we're visual learners. So whether you're watching the video and learning how to build it from there, or whether you're going to refer back to the pamphlet or the blog posts, that's completely up to you. But there are some in-depth pictorials on how to walk through this and build it from scratch. It's really simple. It's really relaxing. All of these subscription craft boxes, they're very simple and beginner friendly to follow along with and do. Don't feel intimidated if you're not, you know, if you feel that you're not the craftiest of people, or maybe you're a little nervous about starting something new that you've never done. Don't feel that way about these because they are very beginner friendly. A lot of these I learned the day before, or, you know, hours before I come on here and I demonstrate them with you guys, and I have no problems with them. They're very in-depth, very forward with the information that comes in the boxes. So it's easy if you are feeling a little worried about, you know, maybe trying something new out or getting started with it. So if you do feel that way, I would say don't feel intimidated by it. You know, they're all very beginner friendly, and they're fun to do too. I really enjoy doing these crafts on live with you guys. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave those in the chat box. I can answer them. I do see any comments that are made, so if you have them, please leave them and I'll answer them to the best of my abilities, especially if you guys have questions in regards to the actual plants themselves, because this kit is a little more particular about, you know, taking care of it long term. You're dealing with live plants here, so they definitely require, you know, their own care system when working with them. Okay, so I do have some examples here too today for you guys. I have some samples of babies that I'm going to show you, and then I have some bigger ones too. So I'll get into those later whenever I actually build this kit up for you guys. I want to mention too that there is a discount code going on, or coupon code, for the next 24 hours. So for anyone who wants to purchase a kit on the website and save a little bit of money on that, you can. That code's going to be Craft with Alex, and that's going to save you 15% for the next 24 hours on any of the kits that you want to purchase online, including the one that I'm going to demo today. And that's CraftWithAlex. That's Craft with Alex. And that's going to save you 15% on any of the kits that you want to get, whether it's this one or whether it's something different, because there are different ones for each month. So you can use that code for the next 24 hours. That's going to be valid. I do also later on want to talk about these schedules that we have coming up for the other classes that we have. So every Thursday we do these, and they're absolutely free. We go into different, like I mentioned, kits. We do different crafts. We do a lot of fun stuff. And then every last Thursday of the month, we do a Relax and Color live stream. So that's an open invitation to anybody. You can watch those for free, and you can bring anything that you're working on to color. We go over tips and tricks. So we have particular themes for each night, and those are really fun to do. So I'm going to start off with the rocks because I want to build a foundation that's going to make the water easy to drain through. Now, normally, as you've noticed, or as you may have noticed with some plants, for example, like this one, you see how there's a drainage hole right there? That's going to help out. That's going to help the water come through whenever you do water your plants, because succulents are very sensitive when it comes to the amount of water that they can absorb. So a lot of the containers that you see them in will have drainage holes, and drainage holes are definitely better if you have ones that have longer roots, or if you have containers that are deeper like this. I definitely would recommend a drainage hole in that sense. But when you're building terrariums, for the most part, a lot of the containers that you use, they're not going to have that little drainage hole. So you want to make sure that you build something that you want to build an environment that your plants can actually live in. So how we do that here is we're going to take some of the gravel that we have, and we're just going to fill the bottom up with that. And I'm going to do a mixture of the tan and the white one, just to add a little variety into it. So what this does here is this helps collect the water as it drains down to the bottom of it. That's going to help filter and make it a little less challenging for your plant to absorb the water, because again, your succulent is going to, it's going to take in as much water as it needs, and if it's getting more water than it needs, it actually can die that way. That's probably the main reason why a lot of people, when they first get succulents, they run into the problem of where they find out, oh my god, I killed it. So that's probably why, because it's been overwatered. Other than that, they're fairly easy to take care of. They're really good at communicating whenever they need something, whether it's more or less water, or more sunlight or less sunlight. And I'll tell you guys some tips that you can use to pay attention to your plants and see what it is exactly that it needs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start, actually going to add all of my rocks here. So I'm going to add all of my rocks, and what I want to do is mix a combination of my soil and my sand, so that way I can have a little bit more of drainage whenever I do put my succulents in. Now for this stuff right here, you don't have to mix it in the bag like I'm about to do right now. You can actually pour them in individually and mix that way as well too. Whatever you feel more comfortable with. And it's okay if these solutions get mixed up as you go. Again, it's going to get mixed up over time. They're going to settle, and certain things are going to shift. So it's okay in that sense if that happens. So what I'm going to do now is just pour a little bit of this sand in here. And this is going to help make the soil a little more, it's going to make it easier for the water to filter through it. Again, you can do this individually. You don't have to actually put it in the bag, but I'm going to do part in the bag and then part in the bowl whenever I put it in. So I want to start with my largest succulent, and I'm taking this one right here. So this one here, it actually does not have any roots on it. So for example, I'll grab one of them that does have roots. You see this guy, it has a lot of roots right there. So as long as the succulent has roots, it's going to be able to accept water. Now, you can put these two pieces together in the bowl and still have them coexist. However, they're going to need a little more, they're going to need different care, slightly. So this one, for example, I'm going to bring it in so you can take a look at the leaves. If you see that, it looks kind of wrinkled. It looks like it has no moisture in it, kind of like if you've been swimming all day and your fingers get wrinkled up, or like a deflated balloon. This guy right here needs water. So it's at a stage to where it's probably been without water for a few days. It's okay, it's not going to kill it, but it is telling you that it needs water. So this is something to keep an eye out for whenever you do begin to raise succulents of your own, is you can tell when one needs water versus when one doesn't need water. And I'll show you right now with these guys. So for example, this one, you can see how it's, again, deflated looking. It looks like it's wrinkled and just like it's seen better days. Versus this one right here, if you look at these leaves, they're very fleshy, they're very full, and they look like they're full of, hydration. So that's the tall tale sign that, one, this guy doesn't need water, and two, this guy does need water. So that's a good rule of thumb to keep in mind when you are dealing with succulents. And not all of them are like that. Of course, they vary slightly depending on, the breed that they are. But for the most part, a good rule of thumb, they're going to tell you using those signs. One will be a little more deflated, or one will look like it's more full. And again, like I'll show you with this arrangement right here, you see these leaves, they're they're kind of fleshy. They look like they're pretty rigid. These guys are good. Same with this one right here. These leaves, they have a lot of vibrancy to them, so they're not deflated. They don't, well, I'll show you what to do in this in a little bit too. So these leaves right here are hydrated, they're full of water, and they're good. So just keep that in mind when you are working with succulents, is that you want to take a look at them, see what they look like when they are healthy, and then when you get to a point of having to water them, you want to be mindful of that too. See what they look like when they do need water, because not all of them will be quite as dramatic as this one here. Some of them are going to be a little more subtle about it, and just depending on the type that you get with your kit is what's going to make that difference there. So I'm going to go in, and I'm actually going to start with the one that does have roots here, and I'm going to put that, just arrange it into the soil or into the gravel, and I'm going to start adding some soil around it. Now, with succulents that have longer stems like this, you want to make sure that when you do submerge it into the soil, that it stands up straight like that. Because if it's leaning off to one side or not, that is going to affect how it grows long term. And you want to make sure that you have a succulent that, is positioned to the best of where it can be, because that will affect how it is or how it grows. And then I have another cutting right here. This one as well does not have any roots on it, so I don't want to submerge that one completely into soil just yet, along with this one. So we're going to hold off on those guys for a little bit, and then I'm going to add more soil into here and then pack that in there. Now, this soil, when you get it, it will be dry. It's not going to be bone dry. You will notice that it has a slight, maybe just like a slight moisture to it. That's okay. If your soil is by any chance bone dry and you can't work with it, you're struggling to get your plant to stay upright, what I would suggest is then you can add a little bit of water to it, and that's going to help kind of keep your plant anchored in place, which is what you want when you are doing something like this. So again, like, you're just going to take it and pack that soil around it, and you can put this in any arrangement that you want. There's no right or wrong way on how to style these. It's all completely based on what you like visually. And you can also take, if you want, you can take sand and sprinkle that in as well too, to add a different layer to it, a little bit of variation. So that's something you can do as well. Now, with these guys, when you have cuttings of succulents that do not have roots, opposed to ones that do have roots like this one right here. So something like this, I can plant in the terrarium and it's going to be ready for water. So as long as my cutting has roots, it's ready to receive water, and you can treat it like you would a full-grown succulent. You know, of course, you want to be mindful of how much water you give it because the roots are so tiny, it doesn't need a lot of it. But once they have roots on it, you can actually plant it into the soil as you would with a regular one, and it's going to be able to receive that water as a large adult succulent would. Also, too, some of the species, when you do propagate them, for this one, for example, you see that it has these crazy roots on it, and then it also has this little baby flowering on top too. So they're all going to behave differently. These are two different species right here. So they're going to behave differently depending on what kind of succulent they are and how far along that they've been, resting for. And that is just, these are just two examples to show you guys. This one here, it has actually a couple of like little crowns on it. So it's really cute. That's just something to show. Both of those are ready to accept water, as opposed to something like this, which this one is beginning to grow roots, but they're not visible yet. So I wouldn't water something like this. So when you are in the process of trying to propagate your succulents, you can do that in one of two ways. So for example, I brought out this guy earlier and I showed you this kind of climbing one right here. And as I was showing that to you, it actually dropped off 2 leaves. So with those 2 leaves that it dropped off, what I can do is I can place these guys in a pot of soil like this one. And I can literally just set them on top of the soil and let them hang out for about a week or so. When they dry out, because when they're freshly off of the mother plant, they're going to have a little bit of moisture still in them from the main root. So they need to completely dry out in order to actually sprout roots of their own. So that amount of time that it takes for them to sprout roots is dependent on what type of succulent breed they are. Some do it a lot quicker than others. Some you'll put away in a cup and then you'll see them sprouting roots in like 2 to 3 weeks. Others it takes, a couple of months for them to actually have roots that come out. So it just depends completely on what breed you're working with. They all vary. It also depends on the type of season that you're in. So during spring and summer, they're going to grow at a faster rate versus what they would in the winter, because they do have a sense of dormancy that they reach when the winter time comes, because they are plants that are acclimated to more humid and warm environments. So that does play a role in whenever you are trying to propagate them and grow them. So if you get your succulents and then in your kit, one of your leaves fall off, for example, like that, of course I peeled it off, but if it fell off, you can actually grow another plant from this little cutting right here. So that's the really cool thing about these guys, is that they're so durable. They have a resistance to them, and they have this adaptability that, is really unique in their own, category of plants. That's why I just love cacti. I love succulents. They can just kind of thrive, on neglect, and they can thrive in some of the harshest conditions where there's not a lot of water available or the temperatures are just like crazy hot. So in a case like this, when you do have a larger cutting like this, it is okay to pop it into the soil, as opposed to something such as this one little leaf right here. I wouldn't put this guy in the soil. It wouldn't be able to take it. But this plant still has its main root on it, so you can put that into the soil, and depending again on the type of species that it is, will determine how long it takes for that to actually grow. So you can just place that in there and get it secured. Same with these guys right here. So this is actually a much smaller version of the main plant that I have in this arrangement. And these guys, they're really easy to take care of. So these are great for beginners. This is in the flapjack family. That's like a simpler way to say them. I believe the actual name is like a Kalanchi. I may be pronouncing that wrong, but that's kind of the species name for them. And they have variations. Some of them have like red rims around them. Others are just green. Some of them have blue. So it just depends on which one you get. A lot of these succulents have different color combinations and different mutations. So that's pretty cool to get into. But as you can see right here, these guys grow upwards and outwards. They have a very kind of wide flowering technique to them. And then when they grow their babies are going to actually come right in the center right there. So you can kind of see that if I open that up and show you guys. So these are really cool. And I've had this one here for maybe a year and a half. And I have it in this arrangement with 3 other species. And it kind of just, it's gotten really big, so I'll probably have to repot it and move it to something on its own. just because of the size of it. These guys can get pretty large too. I've seen clusters of them, like dinner plates pretty much. But we have a little baby here, and this little baby actually has a couple of smaller babies on the inside. So again, this one has the main root. You can do a couple of things. You can take it as it is and let it dry out, which in this case, it's already dried out. Let it dry out and begin to sprout roots of its own. This one has a pretty healthy stem on it. It's not going to completely shrivel if I put it in here. Plus, I don't plan on overwhelming this with water anyways. So it's going to be okay in the sense if I take it and I pop it in. And I'm going to take that and just put that along the side of these that I have right here and just stick that in the soil and the sand mixture that I have going on right there. So you can see that I have the gravel, I have the soil, the sand, and then I have the 3 arrangements right there that we're working with. So now that you have all that in, that's when you can get into the decorations. And I'm going to pull out some of these. I have some more soil that I'm going to pop in here too. And then we're going to play around with it, see what we like. So for these, you can go back and forth, and you're going to end up kind of messing with your terrarium off and on when you're building it, in the sense of, maybe pushing some soil around and moving some of the ornaments around. And I'm just actually taking the remainder of the soil and I'm going to pop that on top of the plants that I have. And I know it looks like I'm burying them, which I am, but I'll show you how I'm going to like dust that off in a minute. And I'm doing this here because this is going to be the main top system of soil that my plants are buried in. So I'm just dumping that all in there. And I'm going to take this little decoration right here and actually like dust that off. So I'm going to get some of that soil away. If you have a paintbrush, you can do that too. You can just use like a paintbrush. You can use your fingers. But it's okay if you do have some soil like kind of trapped on top of your plants. It's not going to kill them. They literally live in it. So it's okay completely. But I'm just taking this little stem and just like brushing off some of the excess so it at least looks a little more aesthetic, afterwards. And now that we have them all settled in, I didn't have to add any water to these or into the soil just yet to get them to stay. They anchor pretty well if you do the technique of adding the gravel and then the kind of pushing the succulents into it, then going back and adding the soil with the sand. That works pretty well with getting them to stay in place. So that would be my suggestion when you are building these. And I have them in place now. So I'm just going to take some of the mosses, and you can go, again, like I mentioned, you can go back and forth. You can add more moss, you can add less moss, you can add moss then soil and then moss. So it really just depends on what you want, what look you want in particular. So I'm going to take this and pull it out of the bag and then just start arranging that. And you can arrange this in any way that you like. If you want to kind of push it into the soil, you can do that too. If you want to have it just on top, that's also a technique you can use. If you want to layer the colors together and work on that, that's something as well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take these and I'm going to push them into the soil a bit, and then I'm going to add whatever decorations I want on top of it, and you can just kind of tear them apart as you take it out of the bag. So I'm just going to push that in some and kind of help it stay in place a bit. And it's going to move around some, that's okay, but I just want to anchor it down a little bit. You can kind of see that going. And when you're making these terrariums, honestly, you can be really creative with it. Right here, we're using a clear, really small fish bowl, but you can use all different types of containers. You can use something like, this is glassware right here. You can use something like this, and you can add whatever decorations that you want to it. You can get larger containers and play around with that. I've seen people use kind of like antique bowls. So there's a lot of different mediums you can work with. And just like everything we do here on this channel, it's all going to be a craft. So it's all going to, have some kind of artistic spin to it or a little bit of creativity involved. And you can just really have fun with that, play around with that, and just customize it, completely with how you like. And that's the fun thing about it. So I'm just taking this moss and I'm going to, and I'm like sprinkling it in on the center, around the edges. You can see that there. And it's really coming to life now. It just looks like a little ecosystem at this point. So it's really cool. And then whenever you turn it, you can see the different layers and you can just kind of see, you know, all that's going on. And I feel like when you add the moss, it really brings it to life. Especially the different colors here, they're really pretty. So I'm taking that and I added my moss. I'm going to now put in, let's see, some of these decorations. So we do have some more of these free workshops coming up. Next week, we're going to have bullet and sketchbook journaling, and Brittany's actually going to host that one. She's going to have her journals and she's going to show you guys how she does the bulleting, the scheduling, the organization, and then how all those, if you've ever seen like the Pinterest posts about those really cute fonts and the calligraphy and everything, she's going to be showing you guys how to do that. So that's going to be next Thursday on the 23rd. And then the 30th, we have a relax and color. That's what I mentioned earlier. Those are really cool. You just bring whatever you're working on. You come sit down, you color, and you just enjoy yourself. So I'll be doing that relax and color. Then the following month on April 6th, we have Pajaki chandeliers, and those are pretty cool. I was watching a tutorial on how to make those the other day, and Brittany was giving me some examples of it. So those are, they're pretty much going to be, it's hard to describe. It's pretty much like a loop, and then you connect them with more strings and wires and yarns, but it's like a decorative piece that you can make for your home. So we'll have that on the 6th, and then April 13th we have moon macrame, and that's going to be another woven project. Brittany will be doing that one as well. And then the 13th, the 20th, we're going to be doing vision boards. So we have vision boards, and then the last one will be again a relax and color. And all of these classes are free, so they have them, or we stream them every Thursday at 7 p.m. and you can watch them on the YouTube, the Twitch, or the Facebook page, and they're free to watch. You can watch the playback as well too if you missed the live stream version of it. So they have a lot of information on that, and then we just cover different kits based on whatever the month is that we're in currently. So those are really fun to work with. So the fairy garden kit, if you do order this version of the terrarium, it's going to come with this little flower arrangement here, and it's wire, so it's adjustable. You could take this and kind of like dig it into the soil. You could wrap it around something if you want to do that as well too. So we have that. We have these really cute little mushrooms that came with it as well. We have a little green one, and I have this red one right here. We have a little ladybug, and this one looks like it has a little sticker on it. Yeah, it has a sticker, so you can take that and actually stick that to the side of your terrarium. And then we have the fairy wings as well too, which you can add as you see fit. You can take your wire from your flower and wrap that around in there too, and then just push that into the soil if you want. So we have that one. That's pretty cute. Now for the other ones, we have seashells and we have gemstones. And I'm going to add a few gemstones to this one. So these are little gemstone pieces, and it's things like amethyst and emerald and quartz, rose quartz. So different ones in here. So I'm going to take some of those, open them up, and I'm going to pick the colors that work best with my arrangement here, which it looks like it's most of them because there's a lot of greens and purples. I'm just going to take that and kind of push that into the soil and lay that around my succulents just to add a little bit of decoration to it. And any of the places where the soil is a little bare, like there's not moss or anything, I'm going to take that and add that there too. Again, this part is very playful. You can really customize it to however you like. You don't have to go based, on so much direction in this part. This is really just a matter of customizing and decorating how you see fit. So I'm going to take that. I do want to add some of these mushrooms because I just think they're so cute. I'm going to take that and push that behind, in between where the moss is, and just kind of set that in place. One thing I do want to say is that when you do water your terrariums over time, some of these smaller ornaments and decorations, they may shift a little bit. They may move around. That's okay. It's going to happen. I wouldn't expect it to stay completely in place, and perfect all the time. They are going to change up a bit. So that's okay if that happens. Don't, worry about that. You can always take that and then just, direct it and fix it as needed. So I'm going to take also too this little ladybug and then just stick that. I'm going to stick that on the outside of it like that. Kind of adds a three-dimensional effect to it, which looks really cute. And then I'm going to take this, I'm going to take the flowers and push that in here along the side. Now, when it comes to succulents, if you have them in smaller containers, they do tend to stay smaller. So they will grow, yes, especially depending on the type of breed that they are. But a lot of the times, if you have them in a really small container, they typically tend to stay small enough for that container for the most part. At least then it takes them a long time to grow out of it if they do grow out of it. So just to keep that in mind, these guys right now, they're in a pretty small container. They're going to be pretty comfortable in this because the roots on them are pretty shallow. They're pretty small. So it's going to take them a while before they get a larger size. And if they're contained in a small place like that for the majority of their time, they're going to typically stay small like that. So you can see what we have here now. It's really cute. I love how it turned out. And these are so fun to look at because the more you stare at it, the more details you see, the more decorations you notice. And the cool thing about these is they make great indoor or outdoor plants. So if you have an office and you want to leave it in your office on your desk, that's completely okay to do. If you have a studio or you have just like you want to keep it inside your house, maybe you live in a colder climate, you don't want to have it outside, you can absolutely keep these guys inside. I would say just make sure that if possible, you put them somewhere where they have access to sunlight or some kind of lighting in general. Right now, I have a fluorescent lighting, like a ring light in my studio, and that type of lighting would be perfectly okay for these guys. So if I were to leave this in my studio, as long as it's subjected to, about 3 hours or so of light per day, 3 to 8 hours, it's going to be okay and it's going to do just fine. And again, too, they will tell you if they need more or if they need less lighting. And you can say that too. For example, let's say I have this guy inside and I keep it inside for months and months and months, and then all of a sudden I want to take it outside in direct sunlight. That's when I could run the risk of scorching the leaves, or the plant is just unhappy in that sense. So I don't want to do that. If I'm going to keep it inside, I want to make sure that I keep it inside. And if I have to keep it outside, I want to make sure that I keep it outside. I don't want to have a drastic switch. So if you do need to switch them from indoor to outdoor, I would say do it gradually, maybe one day at a time, then bring it back in, or maybe put it by a brighter light source inside or a dimmer light source in outside. But I would suggest that if you do plan on switching them over time. Another thing too, if you do keep it inside, make sure that you have it in a room where there is lighting. So somewhere where there's a window, somewhere where I mentioned there's lights, like bright overhead lights, or something along those sorts. So you don't want to have it in a place where it's dim all the time. So a room that has no lights on or no activity or nothing going on, you don't want to have it in a room like that because then it's not going to get the amount of light that it needs, for one, and two, you're not going to be able to monitor it and see what's going on with it. So it needs to be, if it needs more water or if it needs, more light, you're not going to know that. So definitely be mindful of where you keep it in that sense when you are keeping them indoors or outdoors. They are, again, like I mentioned, they give you some time to correct whatever environmental mistakes that they have going on before they actually die on you. So you have some time. This isn't a case where, you put the plant outside and then the next week it's dead. In the event that, that happens, probably the only way you could kill it that quickly, if it does, is if you were to take some water and just like douse it in water, which you don't want to do that. Which, speaking of which, I'm going to actually water this slightly, and I just have a little bit of water here. And you can do, some people, they like to do misters like that, so you can mist it. I usually do not do that. I do mist if I have the little cuttings with the roots that I haven't planted yet. I will mist those. But if I have actual succulents in a container, what I like to do is I like to just take a little bit of water and actually just pour it in there. And I kind of gauge this just based on what kind of plants I have in here and what stage they're at. So again, this is something that does not have a drainage hole, so I do not want to overwhelm it with water. So I'm going to pour the water in and I'm going to just kind of assess it and take a look at how it settles in and how the soil takes it. And I'm going to rotate it a little bit just to kind of evenly spread that around. And I want to make sure that none of my plants are floating, of course, because since I just packed it in, the soil is a little bit dry, which could, for example, the first time you water your terrarium, when you pack it in and the soil is dry and you add water, that could cause your plants to lift up slightly or move out of place. So I'm just keeping an eye out, making sure that that's not the case and that's not what's happening. Because if that were to happen, I would have to, of course, go back in and like adjust it and push my succulents back into their positions. But everything here looks good. It looks like they have enough water. I'm going to add a little more in this corner over here for the bigger guy. And that water, when it goes down, what it does is it just settles through here and it's going to filter through the soil, the sand, and then the gravel. And it's going to reach down to the bottom if you added enough or if you added a lot. And that's going to prevent your plants from, being overwhelmed with all of that water that you just added, which again is the number one reason why people who do have succulents, a lot of times, like they won't live if they have too much water. So this is something that you do not need or want to water every day. You definitely don't want to do that. A good rule of thumb, depending on the breeds that you have, would usually, and the season as well too, would usually be maybe once or twice a month, sometimes a week, depending on if you have them outside. For example, here in Houston, sometimes it's been, up to 80 degrees a day. So if it's a really, really hot week and you have this guy sitting outside and you go to look at the soil and it's just bone dry and the leaves look like they're fainting, it looks like they're wrinkled, like they're just, dying for some water, definitely water it. Go ahead and do that, even if you did water it just the other week. So you want to be mindful in that sense too. How does the soil feel? How do your plants look? For example, this guy right here, I get away with watering it maybe about, honestly, once a month, especially during the winter seasons. I have this one outside, so I will give it water twice a month too. Sometimes whenever it's really hot out there, and I'm touching the soil right now, it's dry to the touch. I watered this about a week ago and it's fine. The leaves are pretty fleshy. They don't have any deflation going on. They're not drooping. They haven't lost their color. So it looks pretty healthy still. So I'm not going to add any more water to it, probably for maybe another week, another half week. So that's the case for this one. Something like this guy, for example, like these little babies here that I can actually plant now because they're just growing so many roots. Something like this, I would need to water even less just because, like I mentioned earlier, the roots are so tiny. You don't want to overwhelm them with just a bunch of water and run the risk of, killing it. When they are babies like this and you do propagate them, usually what ends up happening is once you plant this little leaf right here, the mother leaf that it came from, that's going to shrivel up and fall off. And then the actual flowering that you see here, depending on the species, that's what's going to grow bigger, and then those roots will take to that. So if you see that happening with your propagations, don't worry, that's completely normal. And again, like I mentioned too, this leaf came from the bigger one that I have in here, and I wouldn't put something like this in my wet soil directly or in my soil directly and water it. So I would let this guy dry out for a couple of days or so, minimum, and then or to a week or so until it begins to get roots. Once it gets roots like this one right here, so once it starts to get roots like this guy, which this guy has crazy roots on it. So once it has roots, that's when you can actually push it into the soil and you can begin watering it like you would a regular succulent. So they have just those slight variances when it comes to working with them. Other than that, they're very easy to take care of, guys. I promise. I know it's a lot of information for someone who maybe has never had them before or isn't much of a plant person, but I started raising them maybe maybe 2 years ago, honestly. And I have so many species now, and I have so many little propagations. I've grown grown some from babies. I've gotten bigger ones. I've kept them, all alive. And the ones that I didn't keep alive, I learned how to keep them alive in the future. So they're very beginner friendly. Please don't feel intimidated by them if you have maybe, lost one in the past or anything, because they're a forgiving plant for the most part. Just don't overwater them and make sure that they get ample lighting of some sort. And then you're usually pretty good when it comes with them. So this is my little terrarium right here, and it looks so cute. I love it. I'm gonna bring that closer for you guys so you can take a look at it. And again, like I said, I just have those, you can see the layers right here. And a lot of people, they have their terrariums, and sometimes if they have like an enclosed terrarium, they'll even add like live insects to it. That's not me, but some people do that. In this case, we just have our live succulents, which I think is just really cool. These guys, they love a humid environment. So if you keep them on your kitchen, like windowsill, they're gonna love it there. Especially if you have a lot of sunlight that comes from that window, and it's kind of hot in your kitchen. They vibe really well. I have a couple of succulents that I have on my windowsill, and those guys like have just kind of grown a lot over the years that I've had them up there. And again, too, you can keep this outside if you have the space to keep it outside. I would just make sure that it's not in super intense bright light. Just maybe have like, don't have it directly in the blazing sun, but if it's outside just hanging out, it's going to be fine there too. So you can keep this indoors or outdoors. Like I mentioned, just make sure that wherever you keep it, you don't switch it dramatically from one day to another. Don't have it inside all its life and then one day pick it up and keep it outside. Do it gradually if you do want to make that shift. So that's the terrarium kit. It was really cute, really fun to work with. I showed you guys some examples of how they look during their stages when you are propagating them. Most species you can propagate pretty easily just by removing a leaf and letting it dry out until it gets roots, and then just putting it into the soil that way. Some species again take a little bit longer to do that, especially if you have something like an aloe or anything that looks like an aloe vera. That kind of takes a while to grow roots if you do propagate it in that sense. But there are pretty durable plants, and again, they're beginner friendly. So if you're concerned about them not lasting, if you follow those rules of thumbs in regards to lighting and watering, they're going to be pretty easy to manage. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave some blog posts in the chat for you guys, and this is just going to have some information regarding how to propagate them, how to take care of them. So it's going to be pretty informational when it comes to that. And I'm leaving that, so you should be able to see that regardless of the platform that you're watching this on. So I have one on propagation, and I'm also going to leave you one on the caring for them indoors as well too. So that's going to be helpful. And all of these are on the blog post or the blog, popshopamerica.com. And these are going to be kind of like a great resource for you to use to take care of your succulents. And as well, I'm going to leave the coupon code for the next 24 hours. And this is going to be 15% off any of the purchases that you make on the website. So whatever kit you want to get, whether it's a terrarium kit or whether it's something different, this is going to save you 15% on that for the next 24 hours. So I'm leaving that on the chat box, in the chat box as well too. Okay, and there we go. I have that posted for you guys, so you should be able to see that. I left them on the YouTube, but in the event that you can't see them on the YouTube, or they should pop up actually for all of the streaming services that you're using to watch it. So we have that. That's pretty much the gist of everything when it comes to doing the terrariums. Again, we just have the next classes coming up, the free live streams that we do every Thursday. The next one, Brittany's going to be hosting, so I'll be tuning in for that one. I won't be participating, but I'll be watching. So March 23rd, the bullet and sketchbook journaling. March 30th is a relax in color. April 6th, we have the Pajaki chandeliers. April 13th, we have moon macrame making. The 20th, we have vision boards. And then April 27th, we have another relax in color with us. So please feel free to join us during those. That's every Thursday at 7 p.m. So you can watch the playback on those. You can watch us live, but we go through all of the craft and style kits that Brittany has available on the website, and we answer any questions that you have. So if you're definitely someone who watches and learns, these are going to be great for when you order the kits, okay? With that being said, we are reaching the hour and we are done for today. It was great, streaming with you guys as usual. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the chat box, or you can reference the links that I sent for the blog post. That's going to have all the information that you need as well too, okay? But again, my name is Alexis and I hope you guys have a great evening. Bye.